Derik Queen will be the Big Ten Freshman of the Year.
You are Locked On Terps, your daily podcast on the Maryland Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, everyone? I'm Tre Moore, host of Locked On Terps, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So thank you for making us part of your day. And I'm also doing some work on InsideBlackandGold.net. So make sure you guys head over to InsideBlackandGold.net. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. I think that Derik Queen is going to be the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. If you guys can't tell from these podcasts, I am extremely high on the Maryland basketball team this year, and I'm extremely high on what they can accomplish. I'm extremely high on individual players, and I'm really, really, really high on the freshman Derik Queen. And I think that Derik Queen is honestly going to win Big Ten Freshman of the Year. Obviously, there are some really good freshmen in the Big Ten this year, and there's some really top-end guys, and there's some guys that are definitely going to challenge him for that award. And Derik Queen's not even the favorite for the award, but I think when it's all said and done, he will end up winning the Big Ten Freshman of the Year. I think that there's a bunch of different reasons why, but I think number one reason why I think is how Maryland's going to highlight the kid. I think he's our best player. I really do. And when you're a freshman that comes into the Big Ten and you're already the best player on your team, I think that gives you a boost. That gives you a stock in terms of winning the Big Ten Freshman of the Year that you don't normally that you can't always get when you're not the number one guy. Like, I think last second we need a shot. I think I want the ball in his hands. I think that in terms of the numbers, when we really get into it, when the games start happening, I think he's going to be number one in points. He's going to be top two in rebounds. He could even be pretty high up there in terms of assists because I know he plays with such a high IQ and he can do all those different things. So I think that when I think of Derik Queen in terms of his impact on a team, you could have a freshman that's really talented, but if he's not one of your better players, he's going to struggle to win that type of award. And I think we've had guys like that have been good players as freshmen, but they just aren't going to be able to win the award just because they don't really get as much of an opportunity. Even if they have a role, they're more of a role guy. Like, this guy's our star. This guy's our dude. This guy is, I think, I was reading articles and they were like, Maryland, the key to success for Maryland basketball is Derik Queen, and I really believe that. We have other really good players, don't get me wrong. Jacoby Gillespie coming from Belmont, and Julian Reese returning big man in the Big Ten, one of the better big mans, if not the best returning big man in the Big Ten. A bunch of other guys. I can go through the roster. You guys already know. But I think that Derik Queen is our best player, and I think that will allow him to really flourish. He's going to make some big shots. He's going to have some big moments. He's going to have some huge games that you need to win this type of award. And so I really do think that we're going to put him in position to be the star and to win the award. And then as well as I think that his game is so it's a definition of a college basketball game. I don't know how well, I'll say it right now, and I'll say it to anybody. I don't know about his future in terms of NBA. I don't know in terms of his ceiling, in terms of his athleticism. And obviously there's guys in the NBA that do things that are some really cool things that aren't the best athletes and all those different things. Like, you think of a guy like Jokic, who Derik Queen often gets compared to, but that's a rarity in the NBA. A lot of those guys come in They're freakish athletes. They're not always the most skilled ready, but once they get 2-3 years in the NBA system and NBA coaching, they usually get ready to go. But I don't know in terms of his NBA ceiling what he is. Could he be a one and done and go in the lottery? Yes, he could. But I'm still not 100% like guys like Cooper Flag. You're like, yeah, he's going to go probably number one in the draft. Guys like that. Even other Big Ten freshmen that I'll talk about that I think that he can win the award over. You look at some of those guys and say, yeah, they're going to probably go top 3 in the draft, not because of how you're certain they're going to play in college, but you think of their length, you think of their athleticism, and you think of their skill set combined with that, and you say, okay, those guys are going to be, and those guys are NBA type of talents. But that doesn't always translate to being really good right away in college. And I think Derik Queen has this game where he plays where it translates perfectly to college. He's a guy that we can hit in the post, and he can post up and do some of that older big man stuff and go to the post hook game and that different things in the post and be able to score down low, as well as he can shoot the mid range and be able to get points that way. But he also plays with such a high IQ, and he's a really good passer for a big man. And I think when you look at him, he has all these different things that translate really well to the college game, because we're going to give him a bunch of touches down low in the post. We're going to continuously give him touches down low. We're going to give him a bunch of looks in the paint. And we're going to give him a lot of opportunity in the paint and the pick and roll and those different things. And I think that's going to really allow him to flourish in college basketball. And we could be looking at him as one of the better players in college basketball, but the NBA might not love his upside because he's not some freakish athlete, and that's just what he is. He's a really skilled big that can do everything on the court, but he's not a freakish type of athlete that's usually going to go in the top 10. He's just not. So what does that translate to him being? I think it translates right away to him being an impact player, him being a really high level player, and him being able to win an award like Freshman of the Year because he's a really good polished college player, and I don't think his game has very many weaknesses. He can even extend from the 3-point arc, it looks like now, and do some of that outside of the paint. So I think when we look at Derik Queen, I think his game is honestly ready to go for college. And I think some of these other guys, yeah, they're really talented athletes, but I don't know how college ready those guys are. You think of the Rutgers guys as two guys that have the potential to win the award. Ace Bailey looks really good. I saw the exhibition highlights. He looks really good. 6'10", and can score and shoot the ball. Like that's the type of stuff that gets you drafted top 3 overall. But I think he's going to have some trouble. I think that it's not going to be. I saw some of the shots he was taking in the exhibition game, and I don't know how consistently he's always going to be able to hit those kind of shots. He was taking some tough 3-pointers. I think that he could shallow down a little bit. He could have a really good year, but I just think Derik Queen's going to be better. And Dylan Harper, I think that's part of the reason why. Another reason why I think that Dylan Harper and Ace Bailey could struggle to win the award, because those two guys are both going to kind of be competing with each other and could edge each other out a little bit. When you look at it, and you could look at the numbers and be like, both these guys had good years, but they kind of both took away a little bit from each other, which isn't a bad thing. I'm not saying that's a bad thing for Rutgers basketball. You want both of them to perform at a high level, but I do think that they could end up edging each other out a little bit overall, which I think is something that you have to consider when you look at the two Rutgers kids. But both those guys definitely have the opportunity to win it. I'm not saying they won't, but I just think that Derik Queen, in terms of his college game, I think will have a chance, because I think his all-around game, when you look at it and the numbers he's going to put out, he's going to score a ton of points. Like he could average like 18, 19 points. What I've been hearing from the scrimmages is that Queen has been going pretty much off, is what I've been hearing, and he's been our best player in terms of scoring the ball. And then I think that rebounding, naturally, as a 5'4" type of guy, he's going to rebound the ball a lot, and I think he could be a really good passer if teams want to double him down low. So I do think Derik Queen is going to be the Freshman of the Year. There's other guys Two that I'm like not convinced about. Bryson Tucker, I think Queen's honestly better than him. Will Riley, Illinois, I think those two guys are talented, but I think those guys will have harder adjustments to the college game. So I do think that Derik Queen will win the award. Let's go over my boldest takes headed into the Monday's game against Manhattan. Before the season starts, I want to give you guys a couple of bold takes that I think could potentially happen for the Maryland Terrapins. I'll tell you guys about those after this ad from FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place your live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get the hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-plays, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I just said one of my boldest takes on the year was Derik Queen winning freshman of the year, but there's other takes that I think that I have as well. And I think not only will Derik Queen win freshman of the year, I think he could be an all Big Ten type of player. I think that's another thing. I just give you a bunch of reasons why I think he'd be the freshman of the year. It's the same type of thing for him winning and getting an all Big Ten, maybe first team or second team, potentially. Just don't be surprised when this kid comes in here and is looking like one of the better players in college basketball. I think that that's absolutely going to be able to happen. I think another bold take that I have for Maryland basketball going into the year is they're going to be a top 4 seed in March Madness. I'm looking at this team and I'm saying this team's really, really talented. If Kevin Wheeler puts the right pieces in the right spots, there's no reason why this team can't be a top 4 or 5 seed in March Madness. I'm going to go ahead and say that the Terps will be a top 4 seed in March Madness. I think it's entirely possible with the roster we have constructed. I think that we have everything you need. We have really good guard play with Gillespie and Miguel, as long as they translate, and Rodney Rice and Deshaun Harris-Smith. And we have really good bigs in Queen and Julian Reese. Like, Queen and Julian Reese doesn't get much better than that at the big man position, as well as Jordan Geronimo coming in and some other guys that haven't played a ton. But Jordan Geronimo started last year for us. Now he's coming off the bench. It speaks to our depth. And I think that this team can be a top 4 seed in the tournament. I said yesterday, I think we have the opportunity to win the Big Ten, and if we're going to really compete for the Big Ten and put ourselves in one of those top 2 or 3 teams, that probably will translate to us being a team in March Madness, a top 4 seed in March Madness. I absolutely think that it's possible. I just see us winning something this year, whether it's going on a run in the Big Ten tournament, whether it's us being a top seed in March Madness and potentially getting to maybe the Sweet 16, Elite 8, or if we win the Big Ten conference in terms of the regular season more. I see talent this year, and I see guys in college basketball is weird because you never know exactly, because you could win or lose to really anybody when it gets to that time of year in the March time. But I do think the Terps have what you need to make a run. So I do think that's another bold take for me. Hold me to these. The Terps being a top 4 seed in March Madness. I just think there's a lot of talent. I think that another thing, I think that we could potentially be ranked, or not potentially be ranked. I think this will go with the top 4 seed. If you're a top 4 seed, you're going to be ranked during the year. I think there's going to be multiple times in the year where we're ranked. I think when we get into Big Ten play, depending on how we do out of conference, I think there's going to be times that we are ranked. I think we're going to be hovering around that 20-25 spot a lot of this year. But I think if we start the year right and win the games we're supposed to win, I think that we could start out of conference schedule really well. Like, there's nobody we should lose to besides Marquette and Villanova. And I think Marquette and Villanova, I think you really want to split those two to stay in a really good spot in terms of going into in-conference play. Oh, then you play Syracuse as well, I guess. I think that Maryland definitely, I think another bold take. I think they'll go 2-1 out of conference schedule. I think that Maryland has a really good shot at going 2-1 with those games. I'm like looking at the schedule now and I'm like, wait, oh, they play UCLA. Is that? Oh, wait, that's an in-conference game. And I'm looking at like Washington, and I'm like, oh shoot, that's an in. It's weird. This schedule's definitely different and weird. But I do think that between Marquette, Villanova, and Syracuse, I think Maryland will go 2-1. I don't know if that's a bold take, but I think that's going to be important for us to win. And so I do think that's another bold take that I have. I think another take that I have is I think it's not exactly a take more so about Kevin Willard. I think after this year, people are going to love the Terp fans are going to love Kevin Willard and are going to be excited about Kevin Willard. I think that last year, I just don't think the roster was constructed right. And I think partially, yeah, you got to blame the coach, but I also think that we just had a couple guys that were just a little, we just thought we're going to be. And I think part of it was just it was an overvalued class. We thought the freshman class was going to be better than it was, and that kind of messed up everything. And you kind of just it was hard to recover from there. But I think this year the Terps have a really good chance that Kevin Willard puts together a really good year, and I think Maryland fans are going to look at him a little bit different after this year. I really do believe that. I think that that's something that could potentially happen this year, and I think he's going to have a much better view of himself. I think we just forget that year one he went to the tournament with a much less talented team than what we have now. This team's way more talented than that team he brought to the tournament in year one. We're more complete, we're deeper, there's more star power in legit every position group. You could go through it. I think it's better than that team. And so I do think that he's going to get himself back on track. I think my next bold take is that Selton Miguel leads us in 3-pointers and is top 3 in the Big Ten in 3-pointers made. That kid can shoot the ball, and that's exactly what we need. And I want to see him shoot the ball a lot for the Terps. And I think that Selton Miguel is going to lead the team, lead the conference in shooting. And I think that, or yeah, it'd be one of the top shooters in the conference, top 3 in 3-point shots. I think that we don't talk about him enough, but he's a huge key to us being good this year and us being as good as I think we can. You just need balance in today's college basketball. It's not about having a superstar freshman, and I know I just talked about one for us, but you can have one of those guys, but you need to have balance around it, and you need to have a lot of players that can do a lot of different things. And I think Selton Miguel embodies that. I think he's another guy that we just don't talk about a lot, but he's going to start, and he can be a really high-level scorer, really high-level shooter for us. And after what we saw last year, we need those types of guys that can score the ball, that can shoot the ball. Last year was tragic. I can't wait to just see some threes go down this year after what I seen last year. But I do think my last bold take is he will lead the conference or top 3. I don't want to say lead because there's a lot of really good shooters. He'll be top 3 in the conference in terms of shooting the 3-point shot. I'll go with made, but also could be in terms of percentage as well. Let's talk a little bit of football. Mike Locksley better be better after the bye week headed into the Oregon game. I'll talk about that after this ad from 5 Hour Energy. Our friends over at 5 Hour Energy know that being a passionate football fan isn't just a hobby. It's a way of life. It takes a lot of energy to power through all-day tailgates, touchdown celebrations, or agonizing second overtime, which is why they've created the Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy Shot. With special flavors called Fan Fuel, the energy shot made just for super fans like us. The fans who are first in the parking lot and who are last to leave, we see you. You know what else gave me a bit of Terps fan fuel this week? The moment when a huge play from the latest game came up when MJ Morris made a couple of touchdown games. And then also this big upcoming match against Oregon really got me going. So 5 Hour Energy knows no matter what team you root for, being a fan requires heart, soul, and a whole lot of energy. Whether you're preparing for a big tailgate or your jersey, your game day to-do list is always a mile long. That's why the limited Stand the Fan 5 Hour Energy shot is here to help you fuel through the season. What's your fan fuel this week? Whatever it is, do it with 5 Hour Energy. Available on 5hourenergy.com, shipped nationwide. Maryland better be better after the bye this week against Oregon. Last week was embarrassing after the bye. Not last week. The last bye week that we had was embarrassing going into that Northwestern performance. And now it's pretty clear when it happens once, when it happens twice, it's not, you can't make too much of it. But when it starts to happen a bunch of times, more than twice, then you can look at it and say it's starting to become a pattern. And Mike Locksley, after the bye, being really bad and not having his team ready to play, is starting to become a pattern, and definitely something that we have to talk about. And if you ever want to be ready to play, if you think you're going to get embarrassed against Northwestern at home on a Friday after a bye, wait to see what happens if you don't prepare after the bye for Oregon. I don't know what we've been doing. I'm not in the building. I can't say, yeah, we haven't been going hard enough during our bye week. We haven't been doing this. I don't know. But all I know is that we are going to have to travel a long way to play the presumptive number one team in the country when we play them. I'm guessing they still will be. I don't know who they play this week, but I don't think they'll end up losing. Let's take a quick look. Oh, yeah, they do actually have a decent game on the schedule. They do play Michigan, but I still don't think they'll lose to a Michigan team that's definitely down this year. But Oregon, if you think that you're going to be able to beat those guys after having a poor bye week, not even forget beat. If you think you're going to be able to compete, look like you're on the same age as those guys after a bye week and not preparing the right way and doing what we did in past bye weeks that I've seen under Mike Locksley, you're wrong. You're going to have to switch some things up, figure it out, and put together the best game plan Mike Locksley has ever put together if you just want to stay on the field with Oregon. I'm not even talking about win. If you just want to stay on the field with Oregon and make it somewhat intriguing for Maryland fans to watch, if you want to give us any hope, you're going to have to put together a really good game plan. And I think that playing Oregon after the bye, I think is something you want to do, right? But we've been so bad after the bye, so I'm hesitant to say that. But I think that you want as much time to prepare for those guys while those guys aren't preparing for you. They're getting ready for this game against Michigan right now. They're not worried about Maryland right now. And nor should they be. They're getting ready for the Michigan game, which I think makes sense because that's who they play. But you can take advantage of this and get some game plan, some really cool stuff going in the game plan. There's always different things. When you watch a football film, there's always different things you can point to and be like, we can definitely try this against them. That might work really well. This player does that. This corner covers in this way. We can try this route against him. You can really try and do some things to potentially just compete against Oregon, to maybe stay in the game for 3-4 quarters against Oregon, and then never know what can happen from there. But you better put together a better game plan against Oregon. I don't know what the quarterback deal is. I don't know. I guess Billy Edwards stays the starter. I've been saying MJ Morse should get a shot this year because why we brought him in just to not be, even though he hasn't started, but we're not good. So it's like, why wouldn't we give him the opportunity to play? It'd be one thing if we're winning games, but we're not winning games, and he looked good last week. So I think it'd be kind of weird if we brought him in. We're not good. And yeah, Billy Edwards has played some good ball, but he's also been pretty the last couple of weeks. So I think it'd be weird not to give MJ Morse a shot. But I'm more here to talk about coming off after the bye. I want to see a better game plan from Mike Locksley coming off the bye. To keep it short and simple, I want to see a better game plan. And I think Oregon team is a really tough team to do it against because they have high-level players all over the place, a bunch of good receivers, a really good quarterback that's in the Heisman talks, a really good overall defense, and guys that can do different things. But I still want to see us compete against I still want to see us put together a good game plan against Oregon and to me, Mike Loxley, that you're not as bad after the bye as a lot of people may think. That's all we have for today. Thank you for listening to Locked On Terps. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. We're here every day talking Maryland football and basketball. So thank you for listening to Locked On Terps.